Now, if you're like me, for years you might have been telling people, hey, I'm great at making videos, but I'm not very good at photography. And what I found in recent years is when I was saying that, essentially what I was saying is, hey, I'm actually not very good at making videos or photography. And there's certain things that are inherent as part of making videos that make video more interesting, even if you don't know what you're doing and you're actually not that great at it. And you only have to look online and look at some of the most compelling videos, stuff on YouTube, stuff that comes up on your Facebook feed or current events or news. And a lot of these shots that you are just glued to the TV, you're glued to your screen, your phone, your tablet, whatever, and you just can't take your eyes away. These were shot by people on their phones or people that have no video making experience or people that don't even think they're good at video. And that's because there are elements of video that are just inherently more interesting. And so first we have to identify what are those elements? Why do you think that you're good at video and not photo when you're actually not that great at either? And when I say you, I mean me, because this is a process I'm going through and learning and something that I just wanted to share on this channel. But essentially with video, what you have that you don't have in photo is, first of all, you have moving elements. The subjects that you are shooting are likely moving, and also the camera can be moving. So these are two elements of movement that you don't have in photography. The other thing that you have is sound that you don't have in photography. And sound can be a huge part of video, and not only can it be the sound in the environment and the sound that you're recording on your camera or external audio recorder at the time, it can also be sound that you add later, whether it be sound effects or music or what have you. So sound is a big element. You also have editing. Once you bring that into the computer, you've got clips you can overlay, you can have B-roll, you can have quick shots or, quick scenes or little clips, or you can have fancy transitions. There's so many different things that you can do to make video more interesting in the edit. And ultimately, when we're talking about either photo or video, really what we're talking about is telling a story. Like, this is the thing that keeps you glued to that cell phone video that somebody shot, or some old crappy camera VHS, some historic event. You're glued to that not because the operator of the camera was so skilled or because they knew what they were doing. You were glued to that because there was a story and you wanted to find out what happened in the end, or you were just sucked into feeling the emotions of the people in the scene. So because of that, video and all these extra elements is just automatically more interesting. But there are a number of components in video that overlap with photo. And what you'll find is if you've been saying, for years, I'm good at video but not good at photo, what you're actually saying is you're not good at those elements that are consistent between photo and video. And a big place to look for this is Hollywood. And we look at Hollywood, and there is somebody in Hollywood on just about any movie or anything that you see, any TV show, and they're often called the director of photography. Now, nowadays, they are often called the director of cinematography. But this is the same role. The director of photography and the director of cinematography are the same person. And the photography moniker was something that has been since sort of the beginning of movies. And that's because the person that is the director of photography is actually focusing on those elements in video that carry over from photo. And primarily those are the camera and the lens selection, the framing of the subject or the composition of the image, and the lighting. And generally, if you are a person that says that you're great at video but bad at photo, the two places that you're probably bad at are composition and lighting. And I see this across the board, and I see this with myself. And we know as video makers that the framing and the lighting is a huge part of it. The composition and the lighting is a huge part of it. And if we are great at those things in video, we're probably pretty good at them in photo, and we're not one of those people that are saying that we're good at photo and not video. So essentially for years, I've been telling people that I'm good at video and not at photo, and really what I was saying was that I'm not great at composition, I'm not great at lighting, but I can point the camera at an interesting subject. I can pick the right lens kind of in general. I can get the sound kind of right okay. And when I bring it into my computer, I can edit it and make it look like something interesting. But absolute for certain, that video would be better if I was absolutely nailing that composition and I had the lighting right. And it's important to understand that when we're talking about lighting, we're not necessarily just talking about bringing in artificial lights. We're talking about just the way the light hits a subject. It can be outside, it can be inside, it can be artificial light, it can be natural light. But just changing the position of your subject, maybe moving them into the shade or moving them into the sun, using the natural light or artificial light to get that look you want. So if you're saying, hey, I'm not very good at photography, almost certainly those are the places that you aren't good, and that's carrying over into your video. So by improving your photography and focusing on your photography, you are going to be a better video maker. And for me, the only way I've actually been able to get out there and do this and make this work for myself, because for years I thought, I want to get better at photography, and I would go out and I would shoot some photos, shoot some video. And I don't know, I just kind of was falling into my old video habits. What I found is I had to go out and just decide, today I'm just going to have some fun. I'm going to take my camera, couple lenses, what have you, and I'm going to focus on photo only. I'm not going to use video mode at all. And a lot of the times I think it is better to actually do that with a prime lens or a fixed lens, because that just sort of forces you to sort of move around and find a better composition. You might find a couple different lenses that you want to take with you and sort of play with, or you might actually want to just start with one focal length and sort of master it. It is harder to master wider focal lengths. So I would say, on an APS-C camera, you probably want to start at sort of 23 to 25 millimeters or above. And on a full frame camera, you probably want to start on sort of 35 millimeters or above. I think those are good starting points. If you're shooting with sort of a 12, 13 millimeter lens to start with on crop sensor, or sort of a 16 millimeter lens on full frame, you're going to get so much in the frame, which actually makes it a lot harder to compose the image, because one of the keys is getting rid of distracting objects and being able to tell the story with that one frame. So when you're going out and you're sort of doing this photography, I suggest that maybe just focus on one focal length and one lens when you're doing it. And you remember that what you're really trying to do is, compared to video where you've got all these ways to tell a story, in photography, you've got one frame. That's it. And in that frame, you're looking at the composition and you are looking at the lighting. And if you nail those two things in your photography, you essentially will master photography. And once you get better at those elements in your photography, you won't even have to think about it. Those elements will come over to your video shooting. They will just bleed into your video shooting, and you will be a better video shooter. And if you're one of those people that says you're a great video maker but not a great photographer, I'm just throwing a video on screen now. This really has all the tips and tricks that I learned when I was making the journey and sort of trying to get better at my photography after saying I was a great video shooter, but not so good at photography.